Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we go beyond the numbers, spreadsheets, and tax returns to talk about what really creates freedom in life and in business. Today, I'm joined by David Maris, founder of Socius Wealth Management, a boutique advisory firm based in Phoenix, Arizona, that's redefining how wealth is built, protected, and passed on. David, welcome to the show.
Daniel, thank you very much for having me. And from Arizona to your location, a very happy and wonderful week. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. Now, David, can you share a little bit more about who you are and the work that you do?
Well, absolutely. I think that comes with a lifelong experience of learning a little bit about money and what my family and experience is with money. So that's kind of a deep question for us, Daniel. But yes, I do what I do because I don't believe, and I think the studies do show that there's just not enough education in the marketplace with regards to, you'll hear terms like holistic planning, and really what you're hearing is synergy between different products, the stock market indexes, and how does it all partner together with regards to the end goal, which is, I think for most of us, retirement. Do we have enough money stocked away for that next 20, 25, 30 years?
Yeah. Perfect. Now, was there a moment or is there a story behind what kind of led you into the whole advisory field? I mean, you mentioned kind of something with family, but was there a specific moment that kind of shaped, the direction where you have moved into?
I always lean into this story, and I do because it's very, I think, apropos to the conversation in everyday America, right? Most of us weren't born into money, and a lot of blue collar families, Daniel, don't talk about compounding interest. It was not a topic of conversation around my kitchen table. So did I grow up understanding the nuances of money, the importance of compounding interest, and how it refers to maybe longevity risk, right? Outliving those savings, because it's nice to have a drawer full of money or a mattress full of money, right, Daniel? But we all know that bed gets a little bit lumpy, which means we don't sleep well at night. We don't have peace of mind. So with all the different rising healthcare costs, today's market volatility, inflation eroding people's purchasing power, for me, it was not understanding compounding interest. And I always say, nobody loves my family enough to introduce them to a financial advisor who could show them that there's power behind compounding interest. I was a little redundant there. I apologize.
No, listen, I think you bring an important point. The point is that often, many of us have grown up, as you mentioned, blue collar families. The only kind of advice we had around money is like, hey, in order to make money, you got to go and work hard. And we were never really taught, kind of the premise or how money works and everything. So you bring in, an excellent point. Now, if you had to sum up your mission in kind of one sentence, what would it be? Like, what is kind of the mission that you're doing?
Well, Daniel, as that continues to evolve each and every single year, right? And I love what Google helped me to formulate, which has a deeper meaning, but that is to empower retirees, help them to transition into retirement, and to help them live fully and live gold. So empower, transition, and live gold is a motto that I've been using for the last 6 months to a year or so.
That's excellent. So can you expand a little bit more? What does it mean, live gold? What do you actually mean by that?
Well, I know what I mean, and I think I know what you would mean, but it's all very personal, right? When you sit with a financial advisor, what's the number one question they ask at the end of this discovery call? What are your goals in retirement? Do you want to travel? Do you want to leave money to the kids? So I think that has a different definition for each and every single family, because let's face it, my goals aren't yours aren't mine, and that's okay. So when I say live gold, as life unfolds, I think every one of us change a little bit with the previous years effect to the bank accounts, to a life experience, to children growing up, to grandchildren being born. So I think it's very, very individualized. And that's another reason why I love financial planning, because it can be very unique for each and every single family. So if I were to leave you with one thought, Daniel, don't listen to what your buddy at the watering hole today tells you about retirement income planning, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what you're bringing up, it is an individual thing and everybody has a different definition. But what I'm hearing you is saying, hey, when you get together with clients, that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you help them to do, because
Yeah.
often, people need to have clarity in order to have certainty. And I think there is a lot of people that don't have certainty because they really didn't sit down and figure out what is that goal for them, right? What is that,
Right.
clarity on that so that they can go and have certainty, right?
And a lot of us don't take market volatility into reducing the portfolio, Daniel, right? Rising healthcare costs, I think I mentioned a minute ago, and ultimately the long-term care costs. So those expenses are north of $100,000 a year per some studies. But 40% of the retirees today, Daniel, say that their biggest concern is not having enough income for the rest of their life. And that was a 2024 Trans-American Center for Retirement Studies survey done very, very recently. So the implication, we all have a very specific lifestyle that we envision in retirement. My objective, along with a slew of team members, is to make sure that my understanding of your lifestyle in the future unfolds almost as perfectly as you dreamt it up.
Well, I think the one thing to remember is that your goals, it's a bit of a moving target, right? Because what you think
Sure.
that you want today is not going to be exactly what you're going to go and get or what it's going to look like.
Sure.
So it's being open with it. And I think with, any type of planning around finances, when I used to do financial plans, every time I went and delivered it, I already told them, listen, you need to understand, this is already outdated. This information
Sure.
is already
Yeah.
old, it's gone, but it serves as a timestamp of a specific time. And as we move forward, we just got to make
Right.
sure we're moving in the right trajectory. So help us understand a little bit more. What kind of clients do you actually serve most often right now? Like, who's kind of that right client for you?
Daniel, I think that comes down to the right client really is the right personality. One of the things I think that the general public doesn't take into consideration is they view financial advisors as who? Salespeople, right? How many times have you heard somebody call you and say, hey, I've got a new product I need to talk to you about? For me, it is culture fit. Why? Because, Daniel, we're going to have a conversation every quarter, biannually, or at very, very least annually. So if I'm calling you about an idea, I want you to be really excited when you pick up the phone. Excited to the point that, hey, we are business partners, but we're almost really bleeding into that friendship zone where you're sharing life's changes with me and I with you. To me, that's the ideal client. Now, that being said, there's two people I can't help in this world. And that is, I'm going to say silly rather than stupid, silly and broke. Right? So guess what? Most people I work with are of the higher net worth caliber. And why does that tend to be? I think those are the people that really understand the importance of and the power behind compounding interest. And with the strategies and the teams that we bring to the table here at Socius Wealth, Daniel, are mind-blowing. I often tell folks, we're going to show you something today that will knock your socks off. High net worth clients have a problem. They know it. Do we have the solution? And if I've done my job right in my discovery, in my fact finding, in my getting to know the clientele, we've done that properly. But again, a higher net worth client is really where we feel that a niche where we can be of value most.
So, let's expand on this a little bit more. What do you see as the kind of biggest challenge, financial challenge you see that clients are dealing with today, especially in this environment?
Well, market's been up this year, and I think that a lot of people are very, very happy with that. And I think the biggest challenge I'm hearing, Daniel, is we're not capturing those gains because we continue to see the stock market continue to rise, and we want to rise that until its peak or its apex, right? But what happens at the apex? And we know in the stock market that can turn on a drop of a dime, right? A presidential newscast, CNBC coming out with a government shutdown. A lot of different moving parts can affect the stock market. So staying in too long obviously is a big demise of a lot of portfolios, because just like Las Vegas, we can't ride that wave all the way up, and we don't have that crystal ball to tell us when to stop. So I think staying in the market, staying in risky type of tools too long is what I see most.
So when it comes down to finances and when you're meeting with people, what are the most common myths or outdated beliefs that people have about financial advice, and how do you really help them, reframe that?
Great question. But I'm going to ask you to just to give it to me in a different context.
Well, you already mentioned compounding, right? Like that's something that people are not aware of, right? So what are some of the other kind of beliefs or myths or misconceptions that people have when it comes down to taxes, or when it comes down to the financial kind of beliefs that they have?
Well, I think that's a really, really broad question, but I think as a whole, right? I think some of the misbeliefs is, risky money is bad money, right? And it's not. Even as we enter into retirement, we still want some money at risk. We're just minimizing what we put into the stock market. We do want that continued growth. I think some of the other myths I hear on a daily basis in these conversations is maybe some of the guaranteed income tools that are out there. Pensions, are they going to be around? Is that enough to live off of? Is Social Security going to be around? Fixed index annuities, right? These are all really good pieces to put into a portfolio. But really, there are strategies around what you can do with those money, like a Roth conversion. And I say Roth conversion, there is a strategy where we can actually keep the principal balance intact, and making sure that we have the proper asset allocation strategies in place so we can at the very least protect the principal while we're allowing for that growth. So I think if I were to kind of sum it up into three as a whole, I think guaranteed income, Roth conversions, asset allocation strategies are really some things I hear a lot about.
So, a lot of times when people think about retirement, they think about qualified money and, having kind of that as being the strategy. Now, what do you wish that more people understood, essentially more about qualified plans and how they really work, especially when it comes down to taxation?
I think if I were to have my druthers, if I were to have it my way, I would hope that people would take first and foremost, not just the advice from me or from their financial advisor, but they would start to dovetail those conversations into a conversation. Daniel, ChatGPT is a big thing, right? You're very knowledgeable with ChatGPT. I think we're all using it today. If we ask ChatGPT, is marriage ordained in the Bible by God? Well, if you ask it a specific question, it's going to give us a specific answer. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Now, if we ask it a different question, are we going to get a different answer? So when it comes to retirement planning for financial advisors and for people, I think that there needs to be a real synergy in understanding what the goal is and what the concept is, and then being able to take it to somebody else, another trusted fiduciary of sorts, and being able to just ask those same questions. Because Daniel, I'm going to argue that you're going to get 50% of the advisors you sit with to say A, and 50% of the advisors you say to say B. And my question is it not somewhere in between? Isn't the answer you're looking for in between?
Well,
that's my idea,
yeah.
is that, quite frankly, it is very personal, and it is in between, behind advisor B and advisor A.
Well, again, this comes down to when we're talking about at the beginning, right? You need to have the input from the client, right? As far as what, where they are right now, what assets do they have, what do they already have, and then finding out where they want to go, and then making that decision according to that information really depends on what they want to go and do with it. And there are obviously different strategies that can be, helpful to help them achieve the goals that they have, that they have set. So what's most important to you in how you serve clients, especially in an industry that I think often feels a little bit more transactional, where it's often about the products and people are kind of buying things on very limited information that they have, as opposed to kind of stepping back and looking at a little bit more of a strategy. So how do you actually do that when you serve your clients?
Daniel, I love that you bring up this question, because this is something I face with every single day. When I first meet a client, it really is a meet and greet, just like you and I sitting down together this afternoon, is just to get to know each other. Does it make sense? Can we communicate on a very non-emotional topic like money? Because when we get into the nuances of money, we're definitely not going to connect if we can't connect right off the gate. So I would argue that ideally, clients that understand where I come from, have done the research on me, and understand that there are no blemishes on my record, that at the very least they're going to get some clear, pointed direction. Does that mean every client I make, every prospective client? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I've given them some good information that, if I've given them proper information, sometimes they come back. And they will come back and now maybe even pull down the curtain a little bit more to who they are as a person, because ideally we have to function interpersonally before we can function interfinancially. I just made up a term for us. Okay, Daniel?
So when you think about legacy, and I think this comes down to, again, how you're operating your business, like what do you want people, your business and your life to really stand for at the end when you're talking about legacy? Because again, it's a little bit more on the personal side of things.
Well, just like the clients, Daniel, my legacy changes every single year. We added another grandchild or two, right? So the legacy changes. But what it comes down to for David and for Socius Wealth is we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we had a good relationship. But ideally, we also brought in partners around Socius Wealth Management that can help the client as life unfolds without David and Socius Wealth Management. So my legacy is to make sure that we cultivate a nice relationship, create a nice financial strategy that starts with estate planning, having access to certified public accountants, to having access to charitable distribution strategies, safe money strategies, and a team that we can bring to the table for assets under management. Because let's face it, we need all components working together synergistically in order to achieve a goal. And I think one of the things that Socius does very well is the partnerships that they've created over the last 20 years is finding the right people that have similar beliefs in how to interact with people and treat people, and then secondly, to run a very clean and crisp line of business.
So, you know what, I have this question. What's the one mindset shift that you wish every American understood about money and taxes or retirement? Maybe you just kind of alluded to it a little bit in a previous question, but is there one thing that you kind of feel that a lot of individuals kind of don't understand when it comes to money, taxes, and retirement?
I think the one element that sticks out, and you're not going to like this answer, but this is going to be my answer, is I think the one thing people don't understand is that planning is very individualized. We lean heavily into social media today, and we hear some of the, coolest catchphrases in sales pitches that always attracts our attention. What is that? Does it make sense? Could I input that into my strategy, right? But what ends up happening there, I think, as the masses grow, is that essentially you have a lot of different buckets of money, which is fantastic, but they're not working together, which now increases the problem. And that problem then therein lies with taxes, right? Because let's face it, in retirement, we're going to face things like filing for Medicare. And if we're a high net worth income earner, Daniel, what is another charge we're going to have to look at? IRMA. It's 73 or 75, depending on your year of birth. We've got required minimum distributions. So there's different tax traps in retirement that we want to make sure we can help pre-retirees start to plan for, and making sure that all of the money that they have is working together in concert to not only be synergistically, but also mitigate the tax consequence.
So, David, from the conversation so far, where I'm getting you clearly more than just, and I'm going to say just another advisor. Now, can you share a moment with, a client that kind of reminded you or reminds you why you do what you do, especially the transformation and things that you do? Because, you're saying everything is, personalized. Is there a specific, client or someone that you can say, wow, you know what, this really makes it all worth it when I have done this work?
Is there one client or every client? It's every client.
Maybe
Daniel.
every client. So again, your practice more than I do. So yeah.
Again, there's a lot of noise in the industry, and when you've come up with a nest egg of money, especially those high net worth clients, they have a problem and they're very well aware of it. They're sourcing for the solution, right? And who has the best mousetrap, if you will? You've heard me say this before, it's math, not magic. And I don't know if I picked that up from you, Daniel, or the team, but I've heard that in the last couple of years, and I really like that. It's not math, it's not magic, it's math. And what it comes down to is making sure that you have, the same safety. We have some predictability. We have some tax advantages. We have some lifetime income options. We want higher returns, and we want to mitigate against the lower returns. We want some liquidity, right? We have to keep in mind inflation, surrender charges on certain types of products. So making sure that everything's working in concert so that there is some peace of mind that it's working while we're sleeping.
Yeah. Well, listen, David, numbers never lie, right? Numbers are numbers,
right.
And that's what it comes down to. So listen, if someone's listening and feels, overtaxed, overworked, and unsure what to do next, what would be the first step that you recommend that they take today?
Send me a picture with your smiling face. Right? No, I say that, right, because this is a fun conversation to have. I think a lot of times we as a society take numbers so seriously. And look, I like to have a little bit of fun. I think a spoonful of sugar along the way is very helpful, because numbers in a spreadsheet aren't everybody's love language, right? They're kind of boring to most people and daunting or overwhelming to others. So how can we make it make sense? But for those who may be watching or may be listening, place a phone call. Send an email to info@sociuswealthmgt.com. Daniel, I think you'll share that contact information a little bit later, but just inquire. First step is always the hardest. Take a leap of faith. Have a 20-minute conversation. You're going to know in the first 30 seconds if we have some synergy, and where I can lead you is to potentially an answer to help us get to another conversation. Over time, we start to just uncover the options that are available. But ideally, when I work with my clients, we can very neatly lay out all of the different buckets of money come together with a plan, given the goals set for today, and it really comes down to the client, right? Does the client trust me enough to be able to exercise the buckets of money in concert as we move through the years? And subsequently, do I trust the client enough to make sure that the information they're giving me is correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there definitely has to be a fit, and that's really what it comes down to. So as we're coming to the close here, I've got these, and these could be personal question either from about you or your business. I kind of call them the rapid fire question. Usually they come down to just one answer. What's the first that comes to your mind? But I've got these 4 questions right now. What's your favorite book that really shaped your thinking, David?
Oh my goodness, you're asking me about books right now?
The first one that comes to your mind.
The first one is God's word, the Bible. I'm very big into my faith, and again, wherever a person stands or a client stands that may be listening to this today, I work with all types of people. Right? Jesus came to this earth, and he loved many. He loved all, and I treat people the same way. So, despite the fact that you're Democratic or Republican, or come from a same-sex marriage or a traditional family, listen, I'm here to love you the best way that I'm asked to do, and I want to make sure that I do that on a daily basis. So all of that other stuff is between you and call it a higher power. I say it's between me and God. And that being said, that's who I answer to at the end of the day. So quick answer. The
Bible is certainly a great book. So a morning routine or habit you can't live without.
I'm going to say my cup of coffee. And as you can see, I'm on to my second cup, but that is my habit. And again, I don't mean to make this a religious podcast, but my very first habit before I get out of bed is to say a prayer. And that prayer is to make sure that God gives me discernment and wisdom to do what I do on a daily basis, because the money that these people have brought to the table for the conversation, Daniel, is very, very important. And by golly, I want to make sure that I uncover every rock possible with my team to make sure it's the right fit. So,
perfect.
Morning.
That's great. What's the one bucket list item that you haven't done yet?
My wife continues to remind me that is to purchase an RV and travel the country. I don't see it happening for a couple of reasons. Number one, I hate long drives, but I can settle in. And number two, I don't know if you've looked at the cost of RVs, Daniel, but they're expensive.
The house is on wheels now, so yeah, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. So what's a surprising hobby or interest that recharges you?
I'm going to go the old-fashioned gym. I love to get to the gym and get a good sweat on, get into the steam room or sauna, and just really decompress. So it allows me to just meditate for a minute when I get into the sauna after a nice hard workout, decompress, breathe, and then I jump in a cold shower, rinse off, and get about my day or evening, because sometimes it will be both.
Awesome. Well, staying with I've got one last question here. I call it the hot one. So fast forward to the end of your life. Imagine that everyone that you ever talked to, and again, it could be personal or financial, forgot everything that you have ever taught them or showed them, but they do remember one important message from you. What would that one important message be?
That was the easiest question. We should have kicked the podcast off with that one. I had a conversation with my mother about this very topic about 2 years ago. And what do I want everybody to say about Dave? Is that David was such a competitor in life that he failed every single day. He lost. He could have done something better. He could have adjusted. He could have done more of something else. But he was always looking at improving his life, which means David wanted to attract people that had that similar mindset, if at the very least the people he came across that David made that left them wanting to be a better person for themselves. Daniel, we've been given one life, one life to make it the best life possible. And I will tell you, I fall short all the time. But what can I do in every conversation with every colleague, with every potential prospect, every client that can leave them feeling a little bit better? What information can I give them to improve upon for their own mindset, whether that's in life, in finances, or in their family? But again, that comes with sharing stories, and it goes back to the very thing that I look for in my clients, and that is, can we have a synergistic viewpoint on life? And that is to always reach for something higher. It's not always guaranteed, but we've got to put in the time, the love, and the effort to get that rate of return.
Yeah. Well, it's not about, listen, what I'm hearing you saying from that, it's not about, failing. It's about failing and knowing that you can get up and go and keep on moving forward, right? That's really the message from there, right? It's not about giving up because life will go and hit you all the time, but it's not about just kind of submitting to that. It's saying like, hey, you know what? It's just a learning experience. There's a quote that one of my coaches has taught me, which always says, Daniel, you need to realize that in life is either working on you, right? Or it's working for you, right? And that's really what it comes down to. So it's always working for us, because when it's working on us, it's still working for us because it's there to help us to become better version. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you. So that's great. Wow. Listen, Dave, a powerful and, perspective shifting conversation. Thank you so much for, sharing with us your journey and your frameworks and really your heart. Now, kind of alluded to it. Yeah, we will go and post, but is the best way to get hold of you essentially to go to your website?
Best way to get a hold of me would be go to the website, take a look at it, mull it over, have a couple of questions, and give me a call. But yes, you can go to my website. You can calendar some time right there, and then inside of my contact information, that is www.sociuswealthmgt.com. Socius, by way of friendly reminder, Daniel, Socius is a Latin word rooted in the word friend, ally, or partner, and it's spelled S as in Sierra, O-C-I-U-S, the word wealth, W-E-A-L-T-H, and the abbreviation for management, M as in Mike, G as in George, T as in Tom.com.
Perfect. If you're listening, be sure to check out Dave's website and the tools that he's created to help you design meaningful retirement. David, thank you again for your time and for your message. And remember, making lifeless taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Lifeless Taxing podcast. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.